For most of human history, ice was just weather, a season, a landscape, something distant, cold, and silent. But the truth is far more terrifying. Ice once ruled this planet like a god. It buried continents, erased forests, redirected oceans, crushed mountains, and decided which species would survive and which would vanish forever. The world we call home was not built in calm sunlight, but in the long shadow of unimaginable cold. And hidden beneath that frozen past is a deeper mystery. One that is not only about Earth's history, but about the fragile condition of our existence on this planet. 20,000 years ago, if you had stood where New York, London, Berlin, or Chicago now stand, you would not have seen civilization. You would have seen a wall of ice. Not a glacier in the modern sense, not a white river winding through mountains, but a continental monster, an empire of frozen water kilometers thick, stretching beyond the horizon, grinding the surface of the earth beneath its weight. It moved so slowly, it seemed still. Yet it was one of the most violent forces this planet has ever unleashed. This was the Ice Age, but even that phrase is misleading. It sounds singular, like one chapter, one catastrophe, one frozen era that came and went. In reality, Earth has entered and escaped great ages of ice many times. Entire worlds have risen under warmth, then died under cold. Coastlines vanished, deserts became grasslands, forests were swallowed, oceans fell. And every time, life was forced to negotiate with a planet that seemed determined to reinvent itself. The mystery begins with a simple and unsettling question. Why would Earth, a world orbiting steadily around the sun, suddenly turn hostile to itself? Why would vast regions become unlivable? Why would an entire planet cross invisible thresholds and descend into cold so extreme that even the sea itself changed its breath? For centuries, nobody truly knew. Ancient people told stories of floods, winters, divine punishment, and worlds lost beneath snow. But the real evidence was stranger than myth. Scattered across Europe and North America were giant boulders resting in places where they did not belong, dropped like forgotten weapons by some impossible hand. Valleys looked carved not by rivers, but by something slower, heavier, more merciless. Scratches etched into bedrock pointed in directions no local force could explain. And high in the mountains, and even far from them, scientists began to realize they were looking at scars left by vanished ice, proof that the calm landscapes of the modern world were the ruins of a frozen empire. That realization changed everything. The Earth was no longer a stable stage for human history. It was a restless machine, capable of switching moods on a planetary scale. The ground beneath our cities had once been crushed under ice sheets heavier than anything humanity has ever built. Sea levels were once so low that humans and animals crossed lands now drowned beneath oceans. Mammoths roamed steppe tundras where suburbs now spread. Saber-toothed predators hunted at the edges of worlds so cold and dry they barely resemble anything alive today. And yet, the deeper scientists looked, the more unsettling the story became. The Ice Age was not just a background setting for ancient beasts and early humans. It may have shaped the very path of civilization. It rearranged rivers, carved lakes, built fertile plains, and opened migration routes that would decide where human beings could go and where they would die trying. The map of the modern world still carries the fingerprints of ancient ice, but beneath that grand frozen drama lies an even darker possibility. What if the Ice Age was not an anomaly, but a warning? What if warmth, not cold, is the rare exception in Earth's history? What if the stable climate that allowed agriculture, cities, and everything we call civilization is only a brief intermission between upheavals? Because once you understand what ice has done to this planet before, one question becomes impossible to ignore. If Earth could become that world once, what is truly stopping it from changing again? In that silence, the Ice Age stops being history and starts feeling like prophecy for our species. The deeper scientists drilled into ice, ocean mud, and ancient rock, the more they discovered that an ice age does not begin with a single storm or even a single century of cold. It begins with a chain reaction, small shifts, almost invisible at first, that slowly tighten around the planet like a trap. The first piece of that trap lies not on Earth, but in space. Our planet does not orbit the sun in a perfectly fixed way. Its path stretches, tilts, and wobbles over immense spans of time. Tiny changes in angle alter how sunlight falls across the world. Summers become slightly weaker in the far north. Snow survives longer, ice reflects sunlight back into space. The planet cools further. More snow remains, more ice spreads. A feedback loop begins. That sounds delicate, almost harmless. But when this mechanism locks into place, the results become colossal. Entire ice sheets begin to grow, year after year, century after century, until they become continental engines of destruction. Imagine a white mass so heavy it pushes the crust of Earth downward. Imagine glaciers moving like slow bulldozers, tearing up forests, grinding mountains into powder, and reshaping drainage systems that had existed for millions of years. This was not frozen stillness. It was motion on a scale too vast for the human mind to easily hold. Yet orbital cycles alone do not explain everything. That is where the mystery deepens. Because Earth's climate is not controlled by one switch, but by many, atmospheric carbon dioxide, ocean circulation, volcanic activity, continental arrangement, even dust blown across frozen plains. During glacial periods, the oceans absorb and release carbon in complex rhythms. Sea ice expands, winds shift. Conveyor belts of heat moving through the Atlantic can weaken or strengthen. The entire planet becomes an interconnected machine where a change in one region can echo through another like a hidden signal. A colder Arctic can alter tropical rain. Growing ice can redirect jet streams. Falling sea levels can expose land bridges and transform migration routes for animals and humans alike. Then came one of the most astonishing discoveries of all. Locked inside deep Antarctic and Greenland ice are tiny bubbles of ancient air, fragments of vanished atmospheres, preserved like messages from dead worlds. When scientists extracted them, they were not just studying ice. They were breathing, in a sense, the chemistry of prehistory. Those bubbles revealed that temperature and carbon dioxide rose and fell together in dramatic cycles. The atmosphere itself had memory. The sky above us had changed many times before civilization existed, and each shift left its fingerprint frozen in crystal. But the Ice Age was not a uniform deep freeze. That is the twist. It pulsed. It flickered. It lurched between brutal cold and sudden warming shocks. In some periods, temperatures in parts of the northern hemisphere seemed to have risen with terrifying speed, so fast that ecosystems would have struggled to adapt within a few human lifetimes. Giant ice dams burst, freshwater flooded oceans, circulation patterns staggered, regions transformed not gradually, but violently. The frozen world was unstable, almost twitching, as if the climate system itself could panic. And that changes the meaning of everything. The Ice Age was not merely a long winter. It was a planet caught in recurring convulsions, capable of switching states when enough forces aligned. Researchers searching caves, fossils, pollen records, and seafloor sediments began to see a truth both elegant and disturbing. Earth's climate has tipping points. Push it far enough, and the world does not respond gently. It reorganizes, which leads to a more unsettling realization. If ancient ice could advance and retreat through hidden thresholds, driven by feedback loops buried in oceans, air, and sunlight, then perhaps the greatest danger was never the cold itself. Perhaps the real danger was how suddenly an entire planet could become something else before humans even understood what was happening at all. By the time the last great ice sheets began to retreat, they had already rewritten the destiny of the Earth. What remained behind was not simply melted snow, but a new world assembled from destruction. Glaciers had gouged out basins that became the Great Lakes. They had crushed rock into fertile dust that would one day feed agriculture. They had redirected rivers, raised coastlines, exposed land, then drowned it again. In a profound and almost unsettling sense, the geography of human civilization was designed by ice long before the first city ever rose. And so the Ice Age is not merely about what was lost, it is about what became possible. As the frozen grip loosened, humans expanded into landscapes that had once been deadly. Forests returned, grasslands shifted, herds migrated, meltwater carved pathways through continents. The climates that nurtured farming, settlement, and memory emerged from the ruins of a much older and harsher world. Civilization did not appear on a stable planet. It appeared during a rare moment of climatic mercy. That may be the most disturbing implication of all. The entire human story, our religions, empires, languages, borders, monuments, technologies, unfolded during an unusually calm chapter of Earth's climate history. We tend to think of this stability as normal because it is all recorded civilization has ever known. But against the deeper clock of geology, it may be the exception. The true character of Earth is not permanent balance. It is transformation. And once that idea takes hold, the Ice Age stops feeling remote. It becomes immediate. Because the lesson hidden inside ancient ice is not simply that climates change. It is that they can cross thresholds beyond which the world reorganizes itself. Oceans shift, winds migrate, ecosystems collapse and reform elsewhere. Sea levels redraw the edges of continents. Species that seemed dominant suddenly discover they were only temporary. The mammoth, once master of vast northern plains, became a memory. Entire human groups adapted, migrated, or disappeared under these pressures. Ice did not negotiate. It selected. Today, humanity imagines itself powerful because we measure success in decades and domination in territory. We build megacities, move mountains, reroute rivers, and light the night from space. Yet the Ice Age places all of that in a more humbling perspective. A sheet of ice a kilometer thick does not care about architecture, borders, ideology, or ambition. A shift in climate does not ask permission from civilization. It simply changes the terms of existence. But there is an even deeper philosophical wound inside this story. The Ice Age reveals that the world we inherit is not truly ours. It is borrowed from forces older than memory. Orbital mechanics, ocean currents, atmospheric chemistry, planetary feedback loops. We are not standing above nature, directing it from some secure throne. We are living within a system so vast and intricate that for most of history, we did not even understand the mechanism that made our existence possible. That realization can feel terrifying, but it is also strangely beautiful, because the same frozen ages that destroyed entire worlds also created the conditions for ours. The same ice that buried continents helped shape the lakes, valleys, soils, and migration routes that made human civilization possible. Catastrophe and creation were never separate stories. They were always the same story, seen from different points in time. And perhaps that is the final truth of the Ice Age. Earth is not a stage built for us. It is a living world of immense patience and unimaginable power, forever changing, forever unfinished. We measure history in kings, wars, and centuries. But the planet measures it in ice, stone, silence, and return. And in that vast chronology, humanity is not the master of the Earth, only a brief flicker of warmth between the advancing shadows of the cold.